Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan, our endeavor is to bring to you and lighten you the current topic. And today's our topic is blue tigers or baggy greens. But before I will go to the topic, I would like to inform you that today world is celebrating International Anti-Corruption Day. Corruption is one of the most complex social, political, and economic phenomena which has affected all countries in the world. The International Anti-Corruption Day every year on December 9th to spread awareness regarding corruption. On 31st October 2003, the General Assembly adopted the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. The Assembly also designated 9th December as International Corruption Day to raise awareness of the corruption and the role of the convention in prevention it, and it was only in 2005 that convention came into force. As per United Nations statistics, every year 1 trillion US dollar is paid as bribes, while an estimated 2.6 trillion US dollars are stolen annually through corruption, which is a sum equivalent to more than 5% of the global GDP. Not just this, as per the United Nations Development Program, the funds lost to corruptions in developing countries are estimated at 10 times the amount of their official development assistance. Corruption is criminal, immoral, and the ultimate betrayal of public trust. It is even more damaging in times of crisis as the world is experiencing now with the COVID-19 pandemic. Secretary General Antonio said, I quote, "The response to the virus is creating new opportunities to exploit weak oversight and inadequate transparency, diverting funds away from the people in their hour of greatest need," unquote. Today, we all must take pledge to do our best to uproot this problem from our lives. Now, coming to the topic, and the topic is blue tigers or baggy green. The blue tigers, Indian cricket team is called Men in Blue, and Indian football team is called the Blue Tigers. But some years ago, in the commentary box, Nasir Hussain asked Sourav Ganguly, when can I see India in the FIFA World Cup? The former England captain was mocking the Blue Tigers' inability to compete at the highest level of football. Ganguly, a football junkie, hit back, if India had played football for 50 years, then we would have qualified for the final at least once. An awkward silence followed. Thus, the Blue Tigers nickname was associated with Indian cricket team also. The baggy green. The baggy green is a cricket cap of dark maltal green color, which has been worn by Australian Test cricketers since around the turn of the 20th century. The cap has long been a symbol of national pride in Australia and was described by the chief executive of the MCC as the most famous cricket cap in the world. While respect for the baggy green cap has always been very high, it has grown in stature since the 1990s, chiefly due to the efforts of captains Mark Taylor and Steve Waugh. Waugh regularly expressed his belief that the honoring of the traditions of the game was critical to the success of a team. To be able to partake of these rituals and traditions has meant you have been awarded the highest honor in Australian cricket. You have been selected to play for your country. The India cricket team are currently touring Australia from November 2020 to January 2021 to play 4 tests, 3 one-day internationals, and 3 2020 international matches. They already played 3 one-day internationals and 3 2020 international matches. Australia won one-day international series by 2-1. India won 2020 international by 2-1. Now 4 tests will be played, and they will be played. The first test will start from December 17 till 21st December. It will be played at Adelaide, and it will be the day-night match. The second test will start from December 26th, the Boxers' Day, to 30th of December at Melbourne. The third will start from January 7th till 11th, and it will be played at Sydney. And the fourth and the final test will be played from January 15th to January 19th at Brisbane. And to discuss about the game which has already been taken place, that is the 3 ODIs and 3 2020 international, as well as the 4 test series which is going to come up from 17th of December. We have a very, very elite panel with us. And I would like to invite my first guest, and he is Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh. Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh is the former Ranji Trophy cricketer, served in the Indian Air Force for 24 years. He commanded 4 Air Force units, holding sensitive appointments at the top of the line fighter bases close to the Indian border, both in the Northeast and in the Western Desert. He is a qualified coach from the BCCI National Cricket Academy. He was BCCI match referee for domestic matches. He is former Secretary, Air Force Sports Board. He was closely associated with the conduct of elite sports events like the Military World Games and the Commonwealth Games as Chief of Mission of Indian Armed Forces sports contingents at Military World Championships overseas. He was the Asian representative on jury of appeal drawn from the 4 continents at Military World Championships. He was the chief operating officer of one of the biggest and best boarding schools of the country, where he also headed an academy of sporting excellence for young children with 35 trained sports coaches, including foreign coaches. His achievements are: he played 5 sessions of Ranji Trophy between 1987-88 and 1994-95. One amongst a handful of brothers who hold an international record of having scored hundreds together in the same innings of a first-class match. He captained the Indian Air Force cricket team. He represented the East Zone University's team in the Vizzy. Welcome, Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh. Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh, you remember when we met last, we were discussing about the T20. And yes, we won the series by 2-1. And now the test series is in front. But when you go retro, you will see the 3 one-day international and 3 2020 international. What lesson, according to you, we have learned, the Indian cricket team has learned, and what are the challenges Indian cricket team is going to face now for the test matches? Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh, please.
Good morning, Lal Saab. Thank you once again for having me on your show. As I as I mentioned, Lal Saab, on the last show that I was on with you, when we were talking about the one-day internationals, this tour has been a marvelous turnaround from the first 4 days of the tour, when we lost 2 matches comprehensively and the team looked beaten and demoralized. For me, the biggest lesson that has happened from the matches that we played on this tour so far is that sports always gives you a chance to come back from difficult situations. That's the lesson that I draw from these matches. Because if you look at the first 2 matches that we played, we were completely outplayed in those 2 matches, and and it looked as if we were not in a position to compete with a very strong Australian team, given the results of the first 2 ODIs. But then from there, we've come back very strongly into the series, and the series is now wide open. The test series, it had looked at that point of time that it would become one-sided and there would be a loss of interest to what has been one of the most looked forward to series in recent times, international cricket series in recent times. Firstly, because obviously Australia and India are the 2 top teams of the world at this time. And also, we have had the opportunity of coming back to international cricket after a long layoff for both the sides, Australia as well as England, as well as India. So therefore, this series was very, very important from a cricketing point of view. And not only the cricketing point of view, because of the COVID situation, there have been a huge amount of job losses financially for cricketing organizations who are unable to pay their employees, keep them in their jobs, even pay the players the full salaries, the full the contract payments that they are entitled to, and all of that. So for that, to that extent, it was very important that this series uh, was competitive, was watched worldwide by a large global audience, and the TV and the revenues from the television broadcasts, they would help to put the cricketing economy back on track. So that was the financial importance of this series. And therefore, it was very important that the series remained competitive. There was a large audience watching these matches. So, to that extent, also, India's losses in the first two matches were disastrous from every point of view, not only from the Indian side, Indian perspective, I would say, but also from the fact that we were, if there was a loss of interest in the series, it would lead to further revenue losses and obviously further financial difficulties for a lot of people. So, to that extent, the fact that we came back from there and what has been, in my opinion, almost like a fairy tale comeback is amazing, and it's really good that it has happened during this time. And thankfully, the series, as I was mentioning, even at the end of the three ODIs when we spoke the last time, the series is back on level terms, and India is probably, as I had said at that time, India's were probably starting as favorites in the T20 series, and it turned out that way. We won the first two T20 internationals uh, with a fair degree of comfort, I would say. And then even in the third one, uh, we could have probably completed a whitewash, but then it just so happened that the match went the other way, and which is good because that's what cricket is all about. You win some, you lose some, and it's been a great series of matches so far, the ODIs as well as the T20s, and we've seen some great performances, individual performances, team performances, and I think everyone is now really looking forward to the Test series, and the Test series starts on absolutely level terms. No side has an advantage. Before the series, there was a lot of talk from former international cricketers who said that whoever won these white ball matches, the ODIs and the T20s, would have a huge advantage going into the red ball matches in the Test series. But fortunately, Australia won as you mentioned yourself, Australia won the ODI matches 2-1, and we won the T20 matches 2-1. And therefore, no one really has an advantage, and both the sides are on level terms. And it's going to be, in my opinion, a very, very interesting Test series to look forward to. And as far as the T20 matches themselves are concerned, the series, the series of three matches that we played, the first match was a relatively low scoring match, and India got out for 161 and Australia got out for 150, which in T20 terms are not really very good scores. And India only got to 161 because of another amazing innings from Ravindra Jadeja, who scored 44 in a matter of 24 balls, 22 balls, I think, in the end. And we were actually, if you look at that first T20 international, we were actually at, I think, 114 at the end of the 17th over. And from there, we went on to 160 in the next 3 overs, which is amazing because, and that primarily happened because Jadeja really went berserk from that moment onwards. And he hit 23 runs in the 18th over or the 19th over, probably. So that gave us a target to bowl at. Actually, if he had fallen for 130 or 140 in that match, we wouldn't even have had a proper target to defend. But 160 was still a target that we could have defended. And as it turned out, even though Australia made a good start, they were actually cruising along at one stage, and it looked as if they would get to the total quite easily. They had a good second wicket partnership between and Steve Smith. So from there, it looked as if they would very easily get to the target. But then that turnaround happened with Chahal coming in. And there was, of course, a little bit of controversy about his coming in as a concussion substitute for Ravindra Jadeja. But then his comeback into that series, into the T20 series, was again something like a fairy tale to me, because he was dropped from the side after the first two ODIs, where he went for a lot of runs, and it seemed as if he would probably not be in a position to play a further role in the matches which are to follow. But in that match, where he was not even in the playing 11 in the first instance, he was brought into the side, into the playing 11 as a concussion substitute at the last minute. And then we all know what happened. He picked up 3 wickets, including those of Finch and Maxwell and Wade, who were the top batsmen which Australia had in that match. And obviously, we had Natarajan bowling extremely well in that match. We had Washington Sundar, who conceded just 16 runs off his 4 overs, which is amazing in T20 by T20 standards. And finally, even though Australia made a good start, they were 75 for 1 at one stage. From there, 115 or 16 for 4 midway through the innings. And then from there, they collapsed to 150 all out, which was great from the Indian perspective. And that was the second consecutive match that Australia had lost batting second, chasing a target. They lost the third ODI by 13 runs, and they lost the first T20 internationals by 11 runs. So that again further boosted the confidence that India had gained from our win in the third ODI. And that showed in this second T20 international, where we were chasing actually a mammoth target of 195. 195 in a T20 match is a very, very stiff target to chase. But our batsmen made it look so easy. Everyone contributed. Obviously, there was that blazing innings from Pandya in the end. Virat Kohli played extremely well for his 40. That amazing shot that he played of Ty when he stepped outside his off stump and then he scooped the ball from there over fine leg for 6. Those were great moments actually, and it just spoke of the kind of confidence that the Indian team had. So to chase down 195 runs in a T20 international, batting second, was, in my opinion, a tremendous achievement from the Indian side. And from there, in the third one, we were actually chasing a slightly lesser target from there. And we, in both these matches, in the second T20 international and in the third one as well, we had actually won the toss and elected to field. We'd elected to chase rather than batting first, putting up a total, as we had said in that talk that we had the other day. So it just showed the kind of confidence that the Indian team had in their capability to chase a target. And it's just unfortunate that we fell a little short yesterday. But in my opinion, it was a good thing for cricket because it has let Australia come back into the series once again. Whitewash, 3-0 whitewash would probably not have been good for this series from the viewership point of view. Although the test matches are a completely different game altogether, ball game altogether. The teams are going to be different. And but then it's a fresh start once again for us. And we start on a high, even though we lost yesterday's match. So that's what I feel at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wing Commander Ghosh, for giving your views. And you are very, very clear about that how this series is going to boost up the economy, not only of the cricket boards, and I am sure that economy of the countries also, because once the matches will start played in different countries, whether it's a cricket or hockey or football or tennis, definitely the economy, the confidence, will definitely boost up, and which will be very, very much needed at this juncture. Thank you very much, Wing Commander Ghosh, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Mr. G. Rajaraman. Mr. Rajaraman is a freelance journalist. He is the editor of circleofsports.com. He is a unique sports communication professional with 37 years experience of working for diverse platforms like newspapers, wire surveys, weekly magazines, websites, and mobile apps, news, TV channels, and radio, as well as on the corporate communication side. After completing a course from the International Coaching Federation in 2015, he is now also an accredited coach helping people discover and actualize their own potential. He has been associated with all 4 Khelo India Games since 2018, heading the media department as a consultant with NFDC India in the Khelo India School Games in New Delhi in 2018 and assisting in Khelo India Youth Games 2019 in Pune, Khelo India Youth Games 2020 in Guwahati, and Khelo India University Games 2020 in Bhubaneswar. His major assignments were Olympic Games 1996 in Atlanta, Asian Games 1998 in Bangkok and 2018 in Jakarta, Afro-Asian Games 2003 in Hyderabad, SAF Games in Calcutta in 1987 and Islamabad in 1989, Cricket World Cups in 1987, 1996, 1999, 2011 and 2015, was involved in running the website for the Delhi Commonwealth Games 2010. He is the Director of Operations, School Sports Promotion Foundation. He mentored editorial teams of GoCricket.com and CrickBuzz.com Times Internet Limited. He led sports department editorial in the Pioneer in 1996-97, in Hindustan Times 1997 to 2000. And cricketnext.com from 2000 to 2001, ESPNstar.com from 2001 to 2003, Samay 2007 to 8, IPIT20.com and T20.com in 2009, Organizing Committee Commonwealth Games 2010 Delhi 2009 to 2011, Delhi Daredevils from 2011 to 2013. His other milestones are he authored a book, Match Fixing the Enemy Within in 2001, consulted with a training agency to hold reverse flick workshops with eminent sportspersons for corporates. He mentored youngsters in sports communication and now coaching sportspersons. He represented Andhra Pradesh in the National Basketball Championship Indore in 1980 and Osmania University in Inter-University Basketball Championship Mysore in 1981. He managed the Andhra Pradesh men's teams competed in the National Basketball Championship in Jamshedpur in 1989. He edited Challenge to Opportunity, a coffee table book for Government of Odisha after the 2017 Asian Athletics Championships in Bhubaneswar. Welcome, Mr. Rajaram Raman on our show. Mr. Rajaraman, you have already heard what Wing Commander Ghosh has mentioned. Now, there are two things. First, Wing Commander has said that we won the T20 very clearly, the first. Although he later mentioned about the controversy. That is one, because you can highlight and you can tell what was the real thing about the concussion, whether it was allowed or not allowed, whether the ICC has followed all the rules, regulations laid by them only. And secondly, you have mentioned about that there is in your profile, it is mentioned that you have written a book on that too, on the anti-corruption or like that. And today is Anti-Corruption Day, International Anti-Corruption Day. So keeping this, and you are such a reputed journalist, you have covered almost all the matches, cricket matches. So we would like to know from you, your views about the current India-Australia series, which is going on, and which is going already. We had T20 and one day international, and which is we are going to have the Mr. G. Rajaraman, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goel. I wish I had just said that you had just said that I'm a student of sport for life, and that would have sufficed rather than such a lengthy introduction. I will remain a student for life, and that is possibly the best introduction you could give about me. That I like to learn all the time. Even listening to Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh was a lesson in brevity, in summing up everything very nicely, and telling us where the Indian cricket team stands at the moment. To address your questions, Mr. Goel, first and foremost, the concussion substitute rule has has had to come into cricket because Australia and the world lost a very talented cricketer in Phil Hughes when he died because of a concussion. After that, the ICC introduced a concussion substitute rule that if you get hit on the head and you have concussion and you don't have a, you can't pass a concussion test, then teams are allowed to field a substitute. Instead of, let us go back to the 1960s when Nari Contractor got hit on the head and could not play the second innings. So, what they have now done is ensured that teams have got all their resources. So, you're allowed to make a like for like substitution. ICC lets you, if a spinner gets hit on the head, then a spinner can play. If it is a fast bowler who gets hit, then a fast bowler must come in. Or if it's a batsman can come in. Or in case it's a wicket keeper can come in. Now, you can have a lot of controversies around that. People can ask how come a leg spinner played instead of a left arm spinner. Now, I think ICC has broadly divided uh, players into four categories, into fast bowlers and spinners for bowlers. For wicketkeeper batsmen, there is a separate category, and as batsmen. I don't think they will insist on all rounder because you continue to do one role rather than both the roles in a game like that. When you have a like for like substitution, I think it was a fair decision that the match referee made, but he made a mistake. He should have had a concussion test during the play itself. He should have sent in a doctor to check on Ravindra Jadeja. But now the team has argued that Jadeja felt the after effect of getting hit on the head when he got back to the dressing room, that he was dizzy, and therefore the team asked for a substitute. So it does seem okay from this distance. But on that day, it did not look okay to me because there was no concussion test done on the field. Perhaps there was a doctor that went into the Indian dressing room, looked up Ravindra Jadeja and said that he cannot take further part in the match, and that is why Chahal came on to play. From the distance, it did look controversial because you did not have a test on the field, but then I guess the match referee knows best. Also, Mr. Goel, it's very important for us to remember that the match referee is an Australian. If it was a neutral match referee or if it was an Indian, people could have complained that some hanky panky is on, that favoritism was being shown. But David Boone is from Australia, and I think he was completely overboard as far as above the board, as far as allowing India to make that substitution is concerned. Only thing is, he should have explained maybe in a release later that the concussion test was done in the Indian dressing room rather than on the pitch itself. There have been more controversies in the series. We got to see one yesterday when Virat Kohli asked for a DRS and was denied by the umpires because the broadcaster had already erroneously played visuals of the decision on television, and India could clearly make out that it was an LBW. Everyone thought initially that Virat Kohli had delayed asking for the DRS for the review, but it was the broadcaster's mistake. These are things that world cricket can avoid. These are things that cricket can do without. Broadcaster must have been a little more careful than to show replay on the screen before the 15 seconds had lapsed. I think India lost out because of that. You got to see Matthew Wade play a brilliant inning. He went on to win the game for Australia. Of course, the Indian fielding was below par. India has got only itself to blame. We can always talk in terms of how umpires have made mistakes, but these things tend to even out. More or less, they tend to even out. And talking about anti-corruption, my book was in 2001. Cricket has seen a lot of changes since then. There is the anti-corruption official who's present at every game now, making it difficult for bookmakers to get in touch with the cricketers and fix games. Despite that, there have been some instances, people have been punished, and I'm pretty happy with where anti-corruption is at this point of time in the world of cricket. Mr. Goel.
Okay, thank you very much. But we would like to hear from you something about this current series. Now, what do you think? Although Wing Commander has mentioned, but we would like to know from you
Yes,
also.
thank you very much. See, the one-day internationals were a disappointment because I don't think India was well prepared for that. Coming out of quarantine, going and playing a tough Australian team was going to be a difficult task always. Australia is one of the toughest oppositions in the world, and for India to go out from quarantine, have very little practice, and then go and play a very competitive Australian unit was going to be difficult. And I was not surprised that India lost the first two matches. But I like the show of character that Virat Kohli and his team put on display after that in winning the final one-day international, very competitive match, and then in taking a 2-0 lead in the T20 international. But we must also remember that Australia is not full strength, neither is India. But perhaps Australia took the foot off the pedal a little bit when it came to T20 international because they are looking to win the test series. And to my mind, Mr. Goel, it is going to be tough for India because a number of players are coming, number of Indian players are coming out of long spells of no cricket at all. You look at Cheteshwar Pujara, he's not played in a long time. You look at Ajinkya Rahane, of course, he was in IPL, but after that, there has been a long spell of no cricket at all for him. Hanuma Vihari is a very good middle order batsman who's not had any cricket in a long time. Umesh Yadav played just a couple of games in IPL. He's coming back from a long layoff. Ashwin hasn't played the white ball series. He's coming back. So a number of key players for India are going to be playing in test matches with very little experience in the recent times of playing cricket. The good thing for me was that the sight of spectators in Sydney Cricket Ground at the last match. We have got so used to watching cricket being played before empty galleries. It was a feast to the eye to see so many spectators cram up the Sydney Cricket Ground. But it also tells us where Australia is in terms of safety, in terms of ensuring medical preparedness rather than India. We could have had the IPL in India had we got similar levels of awareness, similar levels of discipline. But I think it's full credit to the Australians and the Indians living in Australia who have kept themselves healthy, kept themselves at least risk of infection, and allowed the stadium to be full yesterday. And to me, it was one of the biggest things in world cricket to see a full house. For most of 2020, we haven't seen spectators at all, and it was a joy to behold to see so many spectators yesterday. The test series will be competitive. India will miss Virat Kohli in the third, second, and fourth international. There seems to be some confusion whether Rohit Sharma can join the side or not. When you look at all of this, the challenges for India is going to be tough. You're going to have Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc come back and play the test series. Of course, David Warner will miss the first test, but Australia at home is always going to be very competitive. They're not going to give anything away, and it's going to be difficult for India to win this series. If they do, it'll be the greatest joy to be able to win a series after having spent so many days in a bubble. I think the challenges for players now are more. It is not just going out there practicing and then getting into a match and competing. It is also adapting mentally to staying within a bubble. And I think if players can deal with those challenges, emerge mentally tougher rather than weaker, I think they would have done world sport a world of good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajaram, for giving your views about the cricket team, and you have how you have mentioned about the consistent test as well as you have mentioned about the anti-corruption thing, and you have given the perspective of the how the Indian team is going to have the face the challenges in the forthcoming test series. Now, I would like to invite my next guest, and he's Mr. Surendra Khanna. I have to introduce him. Mr. Surendra Khanna is the member of the Indian Premier League IPL Governing Council. Mr. Khanna is the former Indian cricket player. When the selectors decided to drop Syed Kirmani for the Tour of England in 1979, Mr. Khanna was given the big break. He was the designated wicketkeeper for India in 1979 World Cup. He played in all the 3 World Cup games. He was in the Indian team for the 1984 Asian Cup held at Sharjah. He scored half centuries in low scoring encounters against Sri Lanka and Pakistan. India won the tournament and Mr. Surendra Khanna was named man of the series. He was a member of Indian team that went to Pakistan in October the same year. That was his last international tournament. Between 1991 and 1992, he was the professional for Stewart's Melville Royal High CC in Edinburgh. During the 1991 session, he scored 1,098 runs at an average of 91.5. Nowadays, he is a cricketing expert of All India Radio and Doordarshan. So, Mr. Khanna, you have heard what Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh, as well as renowned journalist Mr. Raja Raman has spoken. Now, you yourself is such a renowned player. Now, and whatsoever you have mentioned in our last program, I think many of the things came true. Now, we would like to know from you your views about what has happened in ODI as well as T20 and now what is going to happen. Mr. Surendra Khanna, please.
Thank you very much, Lal Saab. Anti-Corruption Day, the entire world is celebrating. I hope people learn from that, because these days come and go, but people don't learn from anything. In the last 30 years, I've seen corruption on the rise. I'm reminded of the days my father came as a refugee from Lahore. मेरे वालिद साहब लाहौर से आए थे, and he started as a work charge laborer. दिल्ली में राजघाट पावर हाउस है और वो सबसे पहला पावर हाउस था. वर्क चार्ज लेबरर बन के स्टार्ट किया, and then he became the number 1 in administration of this. It was considered to be one of the most corrupt body in the world, not in India, in the world, and he was number 1 of that. और आज भी उनके डेथ और उनकी रिटायरमेंट को कोई 30 साल 35 साल हो गए हैं, nearly over 30-35 years. And the organization has been privatized, and it has gone to Tata's and to Ambani's company. Still Reliance, and still, unke naam se I can get things done. People remember the late Shri Chaman Lal Khanna, my father, who came as a refugee from Lahore, and he taught me one thing: son, walk the straight line, the straight path. Maximum somebody can do if you're working in government or for the public sector. If you don't flout the rules, don't make any corrupt practices, don't commit any foul, the maximum they can do is transfer you. I asked quite a few of my college mates, schoolmates I'm in touch with. They're bureaucrats working in highest positions, close to running the government, people who are running the government. And jokingly, I asked them, ki agar tum netaon ki na suno to kya hoga? They said maximum they can transfer us or kuch nahi hoga. So it's your choice. And writing books, आजकल books का fashion कम हो गया. Raja बहुत educated, and I came to know new talent of his, that he was a basketball player as well. He's multi-talented, and the light he showed us on the concussion rule was fantastic, simply fantastic. I had a chat with him, and I just mentioned to be on the show, and he kindly agreed. And I think many viewers who are listening and watching us must have been enlightened like me and Arjit as well about the concussion rule. And the mistake David Boone made, being an Australian, it wasn't noticed. If it was somebody from the subcontinent, the entire world media would have been after that match referee. But that's how things go, and how Gori Chamdi rule still is in play. As far as the one-day series and the T20s are concerned, I would say that Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri's team have shown great character. In the bubble, both the teams have shown great character to play outstanding cricket. Australians in the T20s and the last one day were without their star opener, David Warner, man in form. And that helped us as well. The concussion rule, the umpire made an error, the doctor wasn't called on the field, and Jadeja made merry. He hit sixes. He was running his twos and threes. And then when in the dressing room, he felt the concussion. And we took advantage of that. Oh, that's part of the game. Sometimes you are at the receiving end, like yesterday, when Virat asked for the replay and the broadcaster made a mistake. Australia benefited. So this is all part of the game. We need to accept that. So far, the series have been very nicely competed, contested, and both the teams need to be complimented for playing outstanding cricket. Australians losing 3-4 players due to injury, and then due to the workload, resting a few players as well. So I would say before the test matches, the first test probably starts on the 17th. It's going to be a day-night affair. So we'll continue with from white ball to maybe pink ball in the evening, Raja or Lalsa. रात को सफेद होगी या pink ball होगी. I think it will be a pink ball test.
Yes, that's right.
And it will be a challenge for the batsman to pick the pink ball because it tends to swing a lot more. What I have observed in the few test matches which have been played with the pink ball, a lot of character, and both the teams need to be complemented. Not only Indians, we came back strongly after losing the first two one days, and then winning the third, and then the first two T20s, and then Australians winning the last one. So it's even, Steven. Before we head into the test game, a lot of test players will come in. There will be a lot of changes, and many of them are playing in the India A side. So that's good thinking on the part of the Indian team. So that's going to be, I think, a good thinking on part of both the boards. Players are in the bubble and they are playing the as India A. The match went in a draw. Rahane, Pujara, Saha, wicketkeeper, batsman. They got runs. Siraj, Umesh Yadav, and all our bowlers who are going to be in the test team. They bowled really well on the bowler-friendly wicket. One of the batsmen from Australia side was hit on the helmet, and he was lucky that nothing serious happened. And I hope he recovers fast. And Raja has already explained the concussion rule, and I'm sure the listeners and viewers are enlightened about it. So I would say that before we head into the test match, the players need to change their mindset and their body language from T20s and one days to test match cricket. Because 90 overs a day, if there is no interruption by rain, I've seen the test matches getting over in 3.5 days, majority of them. Last time, India won in Australia, so Indians should be on their toes because I'm repeating a phrase I said a couple of times on your program, Lal Saab, कि kangaroos की दुम में आग लगी हो तो उसको पकड़ना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. When the kangaroo tail is up, it's very difficult to catch Australians. And a player like Virat Kohli is also known as Tiger, eye of the tiger. In Australia, they use a phrase, जो उसकी spirit है, जो body language है, जो aggressive है, जो positiveness है, वो ऐसे खिलाड़ी को tiger से equate करते हैं, eye of the tiger. And I'm sure Virat is leading from the front. In majority of the matches, he has scored runs on Australian pitches. He is an example for the teammates in batting to follow, and his spirit not to concede defeat so easily. I always feel win or lose, दो पहलवान लड़ेंगे तो एक हारेगा एक जीतेगा, बट मजा वो है कि जो जीते वो जाके हारे हुए पहलवान को बोले कि यार क्या लड़ाई लड़ी यार, तूने भी मुझे बहुत ठोका है, ठीक है आज मेरा दिन था मैं जीत गया. So this one day and T20s have been like that, and I feel that the two teams compete like champions. They are the number 1 and 2 and 3 teams in the world. England coming close, and the contest is going to be of very high value in terms of the chit chat on the ground. Australians like to give it to the opposition, but Indians are not far behind now. And I only feel that they don't cross that line which separates the discipline and indiscipline. The ICC match referee is going to be there. So let the ball and bat do the talking, and the wicketkeeper and fielders also shine. And we have a fantastic pink ball cricket on the 17th of this month. And the spectators they enjoy some good cricket. Of course, we want India to win, but let's not forget Australians are a very strong team in Australia, very difficult to beat. We'll have to play outstanding cricket, and they have a point to prove. They lost the series last time to India, Virat Kohli's team, so they'll be coming very hard at us. So I only wish and pray that our players are mentally and physically fit and tuned up for the 5-day cricket. And it's going to be 4 test matches, long time for all the players to stay mentally and physically fit, because these days they play most of their cricket as T20 and one days. Not many of them compete in the Ranji Trophy because they are playing for India or their club teams most of the time in IPL. So it's going to be a challenge for everyone to stay fit from both the teams. I wish them all the very best. And Raj, thank you once again for coming in the program with us. Thank you very much. Lal Sahab, I must compliment you that you host the program very well and you get the best out of all the guests you get, not only on cricket, but I've listened to the every day you're having a program on farmers' protest, and you are also enlightening the awam about many other rules and regulations and women empowerment and all the programs you do. So salute to you as well. और आज मैंने टोपी आपकी तरह मैंने भी डाल ली है.
Thank you very much, Mr. Surendra Khanna, for wearing a cap as well as appreciating my work. Although I will tell you, it's not my work; it's the work of the country persons who has done a great job. Our work is just to bring to the notice of the other people. We are not doing. I am not, at least personally, I can say I'm not doing anything which is to be highlighted. But yes, we want to highlight the conditions or the real expertise from the people, and so that the other people will come to know what is the fact. And like today's program, I'm sure our viewers are enlightened with many things which otherwise was not available in the media. Now we are talking of the media. I would like to ask Mr. Rajaraman, do you think the quality of the journalism has come down from the beginning? Because what happens nowadays, journalists, as well as I will include the commentators. Earlier, those who were commenting, at that time, the commentary used to be like when we were young, we were asked, our parents used to ask to listen so that our English vocabulary will increase and we will have the more knowledge about the cricket or whatsoever sports, whether it's tennis or not. But today, the thing has changed. Either it was because of the social media or because of the television. The quality of the commentary which we used to hear earlier, Vinu Mankad or Vijay Hazare or Lala Amarnath, those time, and nowadays, and so many things are coming negative also in the media. Like yesterday, the other day, there was a controversy about one commentator, a renowned batsman. He commented, and then there was a controversy started. Then recently, two of the earliest player, I will not name them, Indian cricket players, they commented about the performances of these things, which we were not habitual initially. So what you think, because you are monitoring and you yourself is a leading journalist, do you think the quality of journalism has gone down, sports journalism, or because of the social media, we are coming to know more things which were not available initially? Mr. G. Rajaraman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goel. It's a fascinating question. It is something that a lot of people have been asking, and many have addressed that. But I'm nobody to sit in judgment, sir, about my colleagues, about my fellow professionals. It will be unethical on my part to sit in judgment and say that the standard of journalism has come down. What I can say for sure is that the quality of journalism will go up if people spend more time in watching sport, in writing about sport, rather than writing about sports people, but in writing about sport. And also, if they spend time reading, like some of us used to, the quality might just go up. But then again, you cannot blame the journalists, because they're publishing houses. The demands made of them are from their editors and from the publisher. Now, if I were a journalist in the current setup, I may be a misfit, because if I'm focusing only on what is happening within the 75-yard circle in a cricket game, I might not be wanted. So I will not blame the journalists. Perhaps the quality of the media itself, at some point of time, people will need to investigate. But then, is it the publisher who's to be blamed, or is it us as consumers? We have the right to exercise a choice. We can buy a newspaper or not buy it. Why do we then buy a newspaper if you're not happy with it? If you're not happy with the language, if you're not happy with the quality of English, if you're not happy with the negative stories that are coming in it, we have to exercise the right of either writing a letter to the publisher saying we no longer want this kind of service, or you stop it. There is no other option for you. You cannot go and hold somebody's collar and say change the way you function. What we can definitely do is stop subscribing to newspapers if you are not happy about it. Stop watching channels if you're not happy about it. God made the television set, and he also empowered you with the remote control, which has got a mute button. If you don't like what the commentators are saying, like I watch most of the cricket on mute, so I cannot even tell you anything about the commentator. I watch most of it on mute because I want to form my own judgment. I want to form my own opinion. And even when I'm watching a match with someone like Mr. Khanna, for example, we are both watching as silently as is possible because we are developing our own thought. And when we go onto the show, we articulate them. I think at the end of the day, people get what they deserve. And people must, if they don't like what is being served to them in the newspaper or on the television channels or on the websites or on social media, they must stop subscribing to that. The day the numbers come down, people will take note, publishers will take note, channel owners will take note, and then make the changes necessary. I think at the end of the day, it is you and me as individuals who can make a difference to how and what is being served to us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rajaraman. You have given I will say diplomatic answer, but it is right. What you have said is right, because it is the consumer or the choice of the viewers, what they want to watch. If they want to watch a quality thing, or they want to read something which is really quality, then they have to subscribe that. Otherwise, they should not blame only the media. Messenger should not be shooted out. We have to see, after all, whatsoever the demand of the market, accordingly, that thing is to be served. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajaman, for giving your such a good reply. Now, I would like to go to Wing Commander. Wing Commander Ghosh, you are training students, and your profile says that you were associated with a very leading boarding school also. And but do you agree that the experiential learning is better than what we are doing today? Like, I will give you an example. I was there in UK a few years back in London, and I was told that why not take a round of the Lord's cricket match, that cricket field, stadium. I said, how come we can go? Well, no, there is a tour. And the tour costed about 20 pounds, but for the senior citizen like me, it was 15 pounds. We went there, and I was really fascinated to go there. And the guide was definitely a Britisher. And when he took into the dressing room, and that balcony, which was famous balcony, and he was, although he make his face, and he says, this balcony is known as a Ganguly balcony. In a very bitter way, he has mentioned. He was not happy with the way our legend captain, now the BCCI president, has done this thing. And but the thing is, when we have seen there, I saw so many young students, age about 9, 10, 12 years. They are coming in the tour, and they all are with the school tours, and they were watching, going to the green rooms. Now, the green rooms, I think Mr. Khanna can vouch for me. In India, we can't enter in a green room. Only either the sports person or those who are playing, they are allowed. And the experience, and then we have seen our jerseys of all the leading cricketers, our own Tendulkars, Kapil Dev, and whatnot in that museum there. And they are earning money like anything. Don't you think this type of thing should be started in India? If it is, I have no idea if it is there, that you can tell us. Or because we have so many good stadiums, we have so many memories. After all, India is also playing cricket for long. We have cricket stadiums in Mumbai, Delhi, and Calcutta, those who are old stadiums, Chennai, even your Bangalore, why not we start that so that students, at least the young generation, will feel proud, not only by seeing the money which their top player is earning today, they should feel proud to play for the country by watching what laurel they can bring if they will play and they will sit in this green room. Mr. Wing Commander Ajit Ghosh, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Goel, I completely agree with you on that. But before I get to that point, may I just add a little bit of what I know about the concussion rule and how it came into being. Although we've already talked about the subject, but as Mr. Rajaram mentioned, the rule, the concussion substitution rule, actually came into being after the tragic death of Australian Test cricketer Phil Hughes in 2014 or 15, when he was hit on the head while batting. And the ICC actually passed the concussion rule on 1st of August 2019. It took them 4 years from that point of time to actually pass a concussion rule where a substitute could play in a match for a person who had been hit on the head or on the neck and could take no further part in the proceedings. Now, the first concussion substitution that happened was in a test match at Lord's in 2019 in August itself, towards the end of August. It was the second Ashes test match between England and Australia in 2019. And Steve Smith, who had a wonderful series, was actually hit on the neck by a Jofra Archer bouncer when he was batting on 80 in that second test match. And the thing that happened was that he retired hurt at that stage. And then he came back out again to bat later on in that innings and added another 12 runs to his previous score of 80. So he actually got out for 92 in that innings. This happened on the 4th day of the test match. Now, he was monitored overnight for symptoms of concussion by the Australian medical team. The doctors were there along with the team, the medical staff. And the next day only, they gave a diagnosis of concussion, and they said, and Australia actually asked for a concussion substitution, which was to become the first concussion substitution in the history of international cricket. And Marnus Labuschagne came in for Steve Smith, and this was the first time when a substitute was given the privilege of batting, bowling, whatever, because normally in cricket, up to this point of time, substitutes have never bowled or batted in a match. So in the case of a concussion substitution, the substitute can bat and bowl, which is a huge advantage to the side who would have otherwise lost a player. So Labuschagne came in only on the 5th day, when the England innings, the Australian innings had ended, the innings in which Smith had got injured, that innings had ended. The England innings was 30 overs into the innings when Labuschagne came in as a third substitute. So it was not that it happened immediately, that he got injured on the ground and he was substituted immediately. It didn't happen like that at all. It actually, the diagnosis of concussion came the next day, and he was actually substituted well into the England innings. 30 overs had gone into the England innings when the substitution happened. So to say that, because Jadeja batted on after that injury that he sustained, and later on India asked for a substitute, it was wrong, is not actually correct, because that is what had happened with Australia themselves. And there is actually a research which was done by the Australian medical authorities, which came up with a finding that in 60% of cases, the concussion symptoms actually come on the day when you're hit on the head. The symptoms actually do not surface on that day. You feel fine, generally fine, unless it's a very serious injury. You feel you're okay. You can continue to play, but the symptoms surface later on, the next day probably, which is what happened with Smith. So if Jadeja says that he felt dizzy afterwards in the dressing room, I think that's absolutely fine. And people should not really point a finger at that. And therefore, to say that, you know, there was a joke about this, actually saying that this was a classical Indian jugaad to, you know, get in a player into the match when they needed him most. But the fact is that this has happened earlier as well, and I don't think that we really can point fingers uh, on this particular episode at all. Now, yes, because a concussion substitution is so important now in terms of the substitute batting, bowling, and actually making a difference to the outcome of the match, we probably need to think of having a neutral medical professional taking a decision on whether the concussion has happened or not. That, like we had neutral umpires, we had neutral match referees and all that before the COVID situation happened. We probably need to have a neutral medical team also in attendance in international cricket from this point onwards. You know, if the ICC feels that that would prevent these kind of controversies from occurring. So that was something which I thought I would just like to, you know, bring to everyone's notice, because I had followed that incident which had happened at Lords, because that was the first in cricketing history. First time a concussion substitute came on to play, and obviously Labuschagne, his test career was launched as a concussion substitute, and he's gone from strength to strength. Even in that match, in his debut innings, he scored a 50. So if Chahal bowled well that day, he got 3 wickets, won the man of the match. There is a precedent to that. Labuschagne had also done extremely well as a concussion substitute earlier. So I mean that part aside, coming to your question now, experiential learning, in my opinion, is probably the best way to learn, and there is no substitute of learning through your own experiences. No amount of learning out of textbooks can replace that kind of learning. So I have always been a very strong advocate of people learning by experiences, by experiencing things, and whether it is and sports, I think, is probably one of the most experiential things that you can think of. Because what can be more experiential than playing a sport? You get into a situation where your team is probably under pressure. You go in. Your self belief, your faith in yourself, your ability to perform under pressure, all that comes into play. And you learn as you go along. You learn to think on your feet on the ground itself, in the ground itself, because in a match situation, no two balls are the same. No two matches are the same. No two oppositions are the same. So it's evolving all the time, and you need to adjust. You need to work out your own solutions to the problems of that particular time, of that particular day, and that's a huge learning process for a young student or a young cricketer or a young sportsman. So I have been a very strong advocate of this, and at the school where I was, I made it a point to specially use sports as one of the learning tools that we had for the young students there. And coming to that point about the tour that you mentioned of Lords, I've been on that tour myself, and because I've always, sort of been a cricket fanatic, I would say, all my life. I know a lot about cricketing history and how it evolved and all that. So when that gentleman who was conducting the tour, they wear these green coats, if you remember, these green jackets, which the Lord's cricket ground has given them. So he was asking some questions about how the Ashes series, how the Ashes happened and whatever. And there were 2 or 3 occasions when I answered those questions, and then he said that if you answer the next question, I'll give this jacket to you. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot that you can see by actually learn by actually experiencing it, seeing it for yourself, and it obviously builds a lot of enthusiasm in trying to achieve that kind of thing when you're actually in a position to do so. So if a young cricketer is given a tour of, say, Eden Gardens, taken around the dressing rooms, taken around the stadium, shown the history of what happened there in almost 100 years of Test cricket at that ground. It can be such a huge inspiration to that cricketer. It can be such a huge motivation for him to get into a similar situation himself. I remember there was an incident in a test match between West Indies and India in the 1950s when there was a riot at Eden Gardens, and there was the West Indian opener who was batting at that time was someone called Conrad Hunt. Now everyone ran inside because the stands were set on fire, and there was a riot which is happening, and so the teams came inside. They ran inside, but Conrad Hunt went to the place where the West Indian flag was flying on this thing, and he did not leave that place till that flag was brought down safely. So that's, when you hear of that, that's such a huge lesson for a youngster in terms of respecting your country, respecting your flag, and the inspiration that you have when you're playing for your country. I'm sure Khanna sir will be able to enlighten us on that. I've never played for my country, so I won't be able to say that, but I feel very proud.
Not for the country.
I feel very proud when I walk out to represent any team, whether it's a club team, whether it's a Ranji Trophy side, whether it's a university team. That kind of pride, I'm sure, is doubled when you're playing for your country. And so this incident which I mentioned about Conrad Hunt is just an example of that. And it's got such a huge learning lesson, learning for any youngster who's told about this, and if possible shown a photograph or a picture or whatever of that incident. So if we allow children, youngsters to come into our stadiums to actually see what happened, learn, see for themselves, I think that would be a huge lesson. And I think it's time we did that. We have this facility at all stadiums across the world, whether it's a football stadium or a cricket stadium or anywhere. You go anywhere in Europe, in Australia, in England, any other place, you have that facility. It's only in India that we still don't have it, and I think it's a pity. Absolutely. So I completely agree with you on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ghosh. And I will add on this two things. One is about revenue, because I calculated on that day and I found that at least 5 lakhs rupees they are earning every day from the tour. Secondly, one thing which really was enlightened me at that time was that in the Lord's field is in a slope. I think about 6 to 9 inches, the Lord's field is in a slope. Now, whenever the toss takes place, the winning captain has to take a consideration about that slope also, which I was not knowing. So now public, if they also know that, then they, instead of criticizing why they have taken such decision, because if they are also considering that this is a weather, it's raining or not raining, and there is a slope, how the ball will go that side or not, that decision, and how to place the fielders in that side also, or how to place a shot. So all these things, I'm sure by this type of interaction, and the government of India or the Cricket Board of India should take this thing. After all, although it's a very rich body, our BCCI is such a rich, they don't bother for 5-10 lakhs rupees a day. For them, it is peanuts. But still, something is better. And if this money will be utilized for giving more training to those who are underprivileged or those who cannot afford, I'm sure that that will be a very great service for not only for cricket, but the entire country. Thank you very much, Wing Commander, for giving your views. Now I would like to go to our Mr. Rajaraman for 1 minute only before I will go to Mr. Khanna. Mr. Wing Commander Ghosh has mentioned about the concussion rule, and he has explained. Do you want to add or say something about that, or shall I go to?
No, I think he has done a very good job of revisiting the past, of talking to us through how Smith and the rest of it followed. So he's talking about precedents, and you cannot argue against that. And what he says is right. My only point that I was making was that there was no attempt to send in a doctor at that point of time, and that is why people got talking. I'm not sitting in judgment whether what happened is right or wrong. I only shared point of view that has come out in open, that the Australians were seen uh, arguing with the match referee. And I said that it is just as well that it is an Australian who is the match referee rather than somebody from India or from any other part of the world, lest there be allegations of racism, of bias, of favoritism. None of that surfaced. I think players accepted it, went on and played a very good game, and we got a good result for India at the end. I think people tend to overlook some of these facts. What Wing Commander said is 100% spot on, and we need to accept that precedents have been set and they will be followed every single time.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rajaraman. Now, my question to you, Mr. Surendra Khanna, is that when we had a last our discussion, you mentioned that from 40 overs to 100 overs, from 100 overs to 40 overs. Again, first is the 40 overs to 100 overs, then 100 to 40 overs. Now we are going from 40 overs to 90 overs a day or more or whatsoever. Now, do you think our players are now ready for the test matches, which is going to be there? And you were mentioning about the Virat Kohli, but Virat Kohli is not available for the entire series. I think he is going to leave he's getting the paternity leave, which has been sanctioned to him. So what you think, because you as a wing commander has also mentioned, you have played for the cricket for our Indian cricket team, and you are the proud members. Rather, I must say that you were there in the Sharjah also, or the Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where you have watched the players very closely during the IPL, and you were the only person, I must say, not only means one of the few who stayed the entire IPL. You have watched very closely. Now, what you say about our cricket team for our test series? Although we are going to do the analysis one day before or the same day on the test match day, but before that, right now, what are your views? How do you think they are prepared and how they are going to perform?
I think today's program, I must say, I have learned a lot about the concussion rule, thanks to Arjit and G. Rajaraman, and you handling it beautifully as well as the moderator. And I'm now very clear about certain things which were like a dark cloud in my mind. So I'm crystal clear about them. You mentioned about the balcony at Lord's. You mentioned about your guide not very happy about taking our current Dada's name, who is the board president as well, and he was the captain then. But let me add something to that balcony, that you forgot about our good friend Kapil Dev winning the World Cup in '83 for the first time for India, beating West Indies and receiving the trophy over there. I think the guide, you should have uh, guided him to add to his knowledge that you mentioned about Kapil Dev winning the World Cup for India and receiving the trophy, and he could avoid mentioning about his problem with taking the name of our current cricket captain, who is a legend, fantastic player, and he showed how to lead from the front and fight fire with fire. You know, he showed his positiveness, aggressiveness, and was helpful in molding the Indian team. He gave us Sehwag from middle order to opener, Zair Khan, Harbhajan, Yuvraj, many cricketers. Rahul Dravid, he converted him into a wicketkeeper in test matches and one days, and then Rahul became Rahul Dravid. It was the selectors and Saurav Ganguly who did that. And today, Ravi Shastri, Kohli, and the selectors are following that formula in having KL Rahul keeping the wickets, though we had a specialist wicketkeeper playing in the match, and he was not allowed to keep the wickets, and he missed an easy stumping as well of Smith, though that didn't cost much. And about the long room and the visit, 20 pounds which you spent, that was worth it, Lal Saab. But let me tell you, if you come to Delhi and you go in the bus in the tour to Delhi, which they take you to Red Fort, the historical monuments, the Qutub Minar, and many other places, they take you to Kotla Firozshah as well. And they take you to the football ground, Ambedkar Stadium as well, and the Nehru Stadium as well. It depends on your choice. The majority wants to go to which stadium. The tourism department is earning money. I don't think that money comes to Kotla Firozshah. But the visitors are allowed and they can see how many photographs of the greats of cricket who played for India as well as for Delhi are there when they enter the Wellington Pavilion of the historic Kotla Firoz Shah. So I think BCCI can do well by making a museum, a cricket museum in Wankhede Stadium, where they have got the space earmarked. Work is in progress, and I'm sure very soon, with the young leadership there led by Saurav Ganguly, Jai Shah, Arun Dhumul, this will come up as well. And we will boast of a fantastic cricket museum at the Wankhede, at the cricket center at the Wankhede Stadium of BCCI, which is the headquarters for the cricket in India. Now, Indian team is going to play a side game before the test match. That is going to be played day and night with the pink ball. So I think that will be a good practice from T20. They'll play a side game of 3 days, probably, or 4 days, pink ball cricket day and night. That will be the right practice for the cricketers to get into that test match mood, and their body and their long spells as a bowler. In T20, you're bowling only 4 overs. You're fielding for 20 overs, and batting for 20 overs. But in a test match in one day, if you are bowling first, you're fielding for 90 overs. And if you are recognized the number 1, 2, 3, 4 bowler of the side, then you have to bowl about 25, 30 overs. And it can take a big toll on your body and the psyche, and you're not used to, because only 4 or 5 or 6 test matches are played in a year by the most of the world sides, though Australia and England and New Zealand tend to play more than other teams in the world. So I personally feel that the cricketers, they are professionals. They will get tuned up. Like many of them have played a 3-day game with the Australian A side, and they will be in the right frame of physical and mental fitness to get into the test match. Will be a day-night test match. So it's up to the players to make best use, and I hope the wicket is a cricketing wicket, because in Australia you don't get flat wickets in the day's matches. The curators are independent, and they tend to make a good wicket for both the teams. Sometimes we feel that the home curators prepare pitches for their home team, that they have some advantage. But in Australia, our bowlers have shown in the last series, when we played Virat played all the 4-5 fast bowlers, and we won a test match there, that we have the firepower now to counter what we didn't had when 4 spinners used to play for India, Bedi Saab, Prasanna, Chandrasekhar, and Venkat Raghavan. Then many teams in the world used to bounce at us, injure our batsmen, and at times we had to walk out of test matches, like in West Indies once, and once in Pakistan, when Bishan Bedi Saab was the captain, जो मेरे क्रिकेट के कप्तान भी रहे, मेरे भगवान भी हैं, और मैंने बहुत सीखा उनसे क्रिकेट में. And I spoke to Gavaskar Saab and Vishy, and Anshuman got hit on the side of the head, and that was probably in Jamaica, if I remember correctly. Michael Holding and all the fast bowling battery, they were bowling around the wicket. They were not trying to get the batsman out. They were trying to injure the batsman, like Bodyline series, when Don Bradman was hit on the head. And the rule of only having 2 fielders from square leg umpire to the wicketkeeper came in. Earlier, before that, you could place any amount of fielders. And Jardine was the man who tried to do that, because he found no way to get Bradman out cheaply. And he found that way. And the West Indians were doing that. So many things, happen, like Conrad Hunt, Arjit Ghosh mentioned, when there were riots in Kolkata, and he went out. Not only he got the flag, is an inspiration. Conrad Hunt was a very well-respected man in cricket, and he later on, joined an organization worldwide where he was advocating for peace as well. He became a messenger of peace from West Indies. There is India in West Indies as well, the Indian name. Our people went 150 years ago over there, and now their generations are running governments in Guyana and Trinidad. Many times our people are running the governments there. They have taken giant strides. But overall, if you see, cricket and sports bring people closer and together. The way the crowds are participating in the test matches, Australia has shown that they have made their country corona free. If we are playing in Sydney or in Melbourne or in Canberra, nobody is allowed to go out. No one from outside is allowed to come in. That's why we are seeing spectators sitting freely close to each other, and we talk about social distancing. We got to learn as a government, we got to learn as people how you can be disciplined, follow the instructions religiously, carefully, and we can also become corona free. Instead of having our IPL going out of the country, we can have all the events here. England will be touring after the Australian tour. We need to create an atmosphere, give the confidence to the visiting teams from coming from England to travel to India because they are scared to come. Though the number of cases is going very high in England as well. They have also put down the 4th degree lockdown. Their Prime Minister initially allowed some relaxation, but when the numbers were going up drastically, they have brought in the 4th degree lockdown, as it happened in Melbourne when the numbers were rising. In Toronto, I was speaking to my friend at 3 o'clock in the morning. He said the numbers every day has come to 1,860 plus, which is very, very high. And they are also going to go for the lockdown. So we need to be disciplined and learn from Australians. Vietnam is one country which is COVID-free right from the beginning. It's a small nation. We know Americans, how they invaded and bombed Vietnam, but they showed the character to stand to the might of the #1 country of the world. And now in Corona, they are Corona free. We need to learn from them in this field as well. And I'm sure our cricketers, they have shown the character, the way Jadeja and Hardik Pandya fought in that partnership. कई बारी लाल साहब क्या होता है, एक इनिंग्स या एक जीत जहां आपको हार नजर आ रही होती है, वहां से जब आप जीतते हो वो ड्रेसिंग रूम बहुत मजबूत हो जाता है. दैट इनिंग्स हैज प्रोवाइडेड, that partnership has provided that oxygen that we can beat this Australian team if we put our minds and all our cricket acumen to the side and to the country, to the flag, जिसके लिए कॉनराड हंट साहब वहां पे खड़े रहे जब तक वो फ्लैग उनके हाथ में नहीं आ गया था. आप अपने मुल्क के लिए लड़ो, ठीक है. आपको आईपीएल में क्लब के लिए खेलने के बहुत ज्यादा पैसे मिलते हैं, हो सकते हैं उतने पैसे यहाँ ना मिले, बट यहाँ खेलोगे तो आईपीएल खेल पाओगे. यहाँ पे परफॉर्म करोगे तो पूरा वर्ल्ड देखेगा, आपको रेटिंग मिलेगी. यू विल गेट अ रेटिंग देन व्हेन यू परफॉर्म इन ऑस्ट्रेलिया. योर ग्राफ विल गो अप एंड योर कॉन्फिडेंस विल गो अप. देन व्हेन यू विल बी प्लेइंग ऑन प्लेसिड पिचेस, फिर आप भी ऑस्ट्रेलियन एरोगेंस के साथ पिटाई लगा रहे होगे गेंदबाजों की. सो इट्स वेरी वेरी गुड that we have finished on the even note, losing the one-day series, winning the T20. So our confidence, morale is high, and we go into the test match with a side game, playing the pink ball cricket in the side game, which is very good thinking on the part of whosoever formed the itinerary. I was not happy with T20 happening later. From IPL, if we had gone into T20, I would have been very happy. But it's all over. It's 1-1. India and Australia, even Steven. And I hope Virat Kohli in the first test match would like to leave Indian team over there for his paternity leave on a winning note. So I wish both the teams very well. All the best. Good luck. Though we'll be watching very closely.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Suren Khanna, for giving on ending this on a very, very positive note. So today you have seen how the experts of the cricket have given their opinions, and they are very, very clear that the cricket is such a thing which is to be promoted positively, and it will not only beneficial for the cricket game but for the countries. And if the way our present Indian cricket team is doing, according to all the experts, they are doing very well, and they hope that the forthcoming Test series will be definitely, we are going to win if we will be keeping the same tempo what we have done, we have shown in our last T20 series. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you. Today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Newsgaon se Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day current topic. And tomorrow, from Media Conference with Lal Goel, the topic is new challenges for actors. And our panelists are Dr. Rajiv Anand, Senior Psychiatrist, Mumbai, Mr. Sunil Sinha, renowned film and TV actor, Senior Fellowship Awardee, Mumbai. We have Miss Anuradha Chandan, theatre and web series actress, Mumbai, and we have Mr. Siddharth Banerjee, TV and ad film actor, Mumbai. So we will have all the different perspectives from the TV, film, as well as advertisement and the web series. We will be hearing them, and we will be sharing with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Surendra Khanna. Thank you very much, Mr. G. Rajaraman, and thank you very much, Commander Ajit Ghosh, for joining us and giving your expert opinions and expert views about the matches.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.